Hello, my name's Natalie with Perfectly Spoken for the A2 level, and today's class we are going to talk about the weather. And today here in Barcelona is November and it's very, very cold. Ooh. So yes, today we are going to talk about the weather. Do you have your notebook and your pen? Because we have a lot of vocabulary, a lot of expressions. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready? In this class, we will talk about question. What is the question you ask when you want to know about the weather? And how to answer the vocabulary and expressions related to the weather. Okay, so lots of language. It's a very good lesson. Are you ready? Let's begin. I think maybe I can take this off now. Oh, okay, and maybe I can take this off too. Okay, bye-bye scarf. So can I even have gloves? But I don't think I need gloves. I have a nice jumper, so it's cold, but I'm okay in my house. Okay, all right, so let's see. Question we ask when we're talking about the weather. You know? Let's have a look. What's the weather like? Now, what's like is kind of means how is. And we can use this what, blah, 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 like for lots of different situations. So, for example, what's your teacher like? She's very intelligent, interesting, for example. Or what's your apartment like? It's very big, it's very small. Or what's that spaghetti like? Oh, it's delicious. Okay, so you can use this question for lots of different situations, but today we are going to focus on the use of this question, what? What's the weather like? Okay, so here are some examples. What's the weather like today? What's the weather like in your town in April? What's the weather like in London in July? What's the weather like in Cairo in June? Or what's the weather like in Rio in January? So here you can see we use this, always this question form when we're talking about the weather. Later in the class, you will answer these questions. But first, let's look at some vocabulary, okay? So, what was the weather like? Ah, yes, important. You can also use this question in the past, but obviously you have to change the verb is to was, okay? So here we are, you've got what was the weather like? So what was the weather like at the weekend? What was the weather like last summer? What was the weather like yesterday? And here you have some examples. So we're starting to use some vocabulary. So you've got it was cold, it was hot, it was sunny. Again, you have the verb in the past. Now, I know that British people are famous for talking about the weather, but in my personal opinion and my experience, I think that British people talk about the weather, but I think everyone talks about the weather. Spanish people, Greek people, Japanese people, Lebanese people, Egyptian people. I think everyone talks about the weather. When it's very, 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 very hot, we say, oh, it's hot. When it's very, 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 very cold, we say, oh, it's cold. So that's my opinion. So that's why I think this lesson is very, very important, okay? So let's have a look at some vocabulary. So what's the weather like today? It's sunny but quite cold. I've highlighted here the it in purple because you must remember to say it with the weather, like it's sunny, it's hot, it's cold, okay? All right, so here in this photograph, what's the weather like in this photo? This is a photo of me. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful beach. And yeah, in this photograph, it's very sunny. It's actually hot and humid. Humid when the air kind of has like moisture in the air. It's very, very, very like you sweat. It's very difficult heat. So yeah, it's very, very hot, very sunny, very humid. But I don't know if you can see in the distance in this photograph, you can see clouds in the sky, clouds, white clouds. And I think about 2 hours after I took this photo, it rained. It rained and 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 it rained. It rained a lot. Okay. So here, it's really hot and sunny and humid. In this photo, I have an umbrella to protect my head from the sun. So normally you have an umbrella for the rain, but I had an umbrella to protect my head from the sun. Okay. But it also rains a lot in Costa Rica during the rainy season. So 2 hours after I took this photo, it rained a lot, a lot. I'm sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Wait 1 moment. Oh, I'm very sorry. Very sorry. I do apologise for that. You see, because it's very cold, I have a cold. Yes. Okay. Right, let's continue. Okay, so here I've highlighted the important language you can use when you're talking about the weather. Okay. So you've got hot, sunny, humid, sun, rainy season, it rained a lot. Okay, now let's look at another example. Oh, I love this photograph. I took this photograph in England in July, and you can see here it's sunny and warm. It's not hot, but it's warm, and there are some clouds around, but it's dry, it's not wet. Okay, so it's a nice sunny day. That's a very good expression. It's a nice sunny day. There are some clouds around, but it's mostly sunny. I took this photo in England in the summer. So it's a nice sunny day, a nice sunny day. That's an expression we use a lot. It's a nice sunny day. So it's a good way to increase the complexity of your language. So, for example, if I say, what's the weather like? You can say, it's sunny. Or you can say, it's a nice sunny day. And it's increasing the complexity of your language. Okay? And then we've got, I took this photo in England in the summer. So basically here you can see take a photo in present and in the past took a photo. Well, now really you don't do it like this now. You do it like this with a mobile phone. But I took this in summer. So, okay, let's have a look at the next one. Oh, I love this photograph. I love this photograph. It's so beautiful. I didn't take this photograph, so I didn't take it, but I love it. It's beautiful. You can see it's very, very cold. It's winter. It's there's snow on the ground. It's icy, yeah, so very cold, and it's just a little bit foggy. It's beautiful, beautiful, but very cold. You definitely need your scarf and some very good gloves for this weather, and very important, a hat too. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the language. We've got it's very cold, it's very icy, and there's snow on the ground. And also I said it was foggy. Foggy is when you can't see very well. Okay. All right. Oh, and I love this photo too. Why? Because it reminds me of England. It reminds me of my home. Sitting in the car in the rain. That, for me, is England. Yeah, maybe it's summer, maybe it's winter, maybe it's spring, maybe it's autumn, but it's raining and you're in the car. And you see the rain on the window, so I love it. So here you've got 3 ways you can say it's raining, it's wet, or it's rainy. Probably the most common ones are it's raining or it's wet. It's raining or it's wet. The opposite of wet, of course, is dry. Okay, don't worry, later we can look at all the vocabulary from this lesson. Okay, what's the weather like in this photograph? Another fantastic photograph. Here at the moment in this photo, it's dry, it's sunny, but you can see in the distance that there are some very, very, very grey clouds, and it's actually raining. It's raining in the distance. So yeah, beautiful photograph. So at the moment it's sunny. There's a storm coming. A storm is... So look at those dark clouds. You can see the rain in the distance. So here I've highlighted language. It's sunny. There's a storm coming. Look at those dark clouds. Those dark clouds. And you can see the rain in the distance. And here, look, it's another example. Similar photo, similar type of situation. It's dry at the moment, but there's a storm coming. And can you see, you can see here the lightning, Can't hear the thunder because it's photographed, but you can see the lightning. So quite often with a storm, you have thunder and lightning. Okay, so as you can see in this photograph. Okay, and what's the weather like here? Oof, it's very cold. This is very, very, very typical in my country, in England, in the morning, because at night the temperature goes down to -1 or -2 or -3, and you get frost. Okay, so here you can see it's very cold. In the morning there was a frost. A frost is this icy covering on the grass, on the plants. Very beautiful, very, very beautiful. Okay. What's the weather like here? Well, here it's windy, it's sunny. Again, there are lots of clouds around. Okay. So windy, sunny, clouds around. And what's the weather like here? Yes, it's a really dry climate. It's probably very hot. They need some rain. Of course, the problem here is in this dry climate, the ground is very, very dry. And then if it rains a lot, then sometimes you get a flood. Okay, flood is when the water goes up, 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 and it's a problem. Okay, so you've got if it rains a lot, you can have floods. Notice the pronunciation, floods, no, floods. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it can be very, very dry and then suddenly very wet. You can have floods. Okay, so now let's look at a summary of some of the language related to talking about the weather. Maybe here you want to write the language down in your notebook or pause the video so you can have a good look at the language. Here we go. Okay, so first of all, we've got three sections. You've got the adjectives. For example, it's hot, it's cold, it's warm. Warm is not hot and not cold. Cold, for example, could be 7 degrees. Hot, maybe 27 degrees. And warm, maybe 20 degrees. But it depends. It depends on you and your perception. Depends. Okay. Then you've got it's wet, so it's raining. It's dry, it's windy, or it's foggy. You can't see very well. Okay. And with verbs, you can use it in present continuous. It's raining. For example, now it is raining. It's raining. Or present simple. It's a fact. Now it rains in summer. Or in past, like yesterday, it rained a lot. Or last April, it rained a lot. And the same with snow, snowing. Okay. So for example, with snowing, you've got it's snowing, it snowed. It doesn't snow very often. Okay. And then you've got the last ones here. You've got the seasons and climates. Okay, I'm just going to, right, can you remember the names of these seasons? So the first picture with the pink trees, what season is that? It's my favourite. And then the next one, where all the leaves are green. Do you remember? Sorry. Okay. There we go. Yeah. Got spring, summer, autumn, winter. Okay, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Which is your favourite? Which is your favourite? I really, really like spring. I think spring is my favourite. I like summer too. And maybe you don't have seasons like this in your country. Maybe you have a rainy season or dry season is possible as well. So what type of season do you have? Okay, so let's go back to the language summary. We've got the seasons, and I'm going to show you a picture now, and I want you to see which one is it. Is it spring, summer, autumn or fall, or winter, rainy season, wet season, dry season, hot climate or cold climate? What do you think? Okay, so I think it looks like a dry season. To me, it looks like a dry season. Maybe you said summer, but it looks like dry season because the river is very, very low. The level of the water is very, very low. Okay. All right, so a lot of vocabulary. Just going to put the last vocabulary up that also when we were talking about the photos, we heard this vocabulary too. Okay, so have a look. You've got there was a frost. this morning when you have ice on the plants. The roads are icy. If it rains a lot, there can be floods. There was a bad storm last night and it's 30 degrees today. In most of Europe, they talk about degrees Celsius. But in England or in the UK, sometimes people talk in Fahrenheit. And I think in the United States, they talk in Fahrenheit. So you have to remember if they're talking in degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So let's now look at the questions that I asked you at the beginning of the lesson. Okay, are you ready? See if you can answer them. Maybe you could either pause the video after each question and try and answer speaking. Or you can pause the video and try to write the answer, which is very good to practice vocabulary. So I will ask the question, then I will give an example answer, okay? But you can pause the video, of course. Okay, so what's the weather like? What's the weather like today? For example, here in Barcelona, it's sunny but cold. It's quite cold. What's the weather like in your town in April? For example, here in Barcelona in April, it totally depends. Sometimes it's very hot, well, or sometimes it's warm. Sometimes it's really, really rainy. And sometimes it's cold. So it really depends. Every April is completely different. What about in your town? Okay, next question. What's the weather like in London in July? That's a very difficult question to answer because it depends. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's windy, sometimes it's it can be raining in the morning, hot in the afternoon, and cold at night. So in London, you never know. It's quite often cloudy in London, and sometimes it's very hot. Yeah, so it depends. What's the weather like in Cairo in June? I think the weather in Cairo in June is dry and quite hot. So, and what's the weather like in Rio in January? Now, I don't know the answer to this question. You have to find out the answer to this question. Put the question in Google and find the answer to this question. Or if you live in Rio, obviously, you can answer the question. Okay. All right, so we've done a lot of language in this lesson. Remember, you can watch the lesson again and again if you subscribe, and you can do the test at the end of the lesson. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I definitely did. And I will see you in next class. The next class is number 13. So thank you very much. My name's Natalie from Perfectly Spoken. This lesson was about the weather. Okay, bye. Bye.